Welcome to the Black Doctor Collective podcast. We as Black doctors are in a unique position. We can change our communities, healthcare, and the world. Of course, we start by changing the way we see and value ourselves. I'm your host, Dr. Shanika Horn, pediatrician and physician coach, travel extraordinaire. I am so happy to have you here and listening. So let's get into it. So here I am getting geared up to record an episode about how the soft life is a hard win, meaning that people talk about a soft life, but they don't talk a lot about how much effort it takes to actually create that. And I am on this computer struggling to record the podcast. It is like the prime example of me working hard to set up and create soft, and it's hard. But the pop is popping though. Okay, anyway, welcome everybody. Let's get into this episode. We're going to talk about what it actually takes to create a soft life and this myth that it just means quitting everything. We like to think about soft as easy and peaceful and like all of these words that just are relaxing and luxuriating, but it's actually about strategy. Soft is not weak, it is strategic. The first story that comes to mind just off the bat is in my current workplace, I have an employee who was sick and was struggling to take a sick day, like feeling guilty, wanting to tell me all her symptoms. First of all, TMI, I don't need to know why you're sick and where it's coming out of. Thanks. But also, she was like, oh, I don't want to be perceived as weak. And actually, it's really the opposite, right? Because if I have to spend all this time coddling you into taking a sick day and into taking care of yourself and into convincing you that like this is a time suck for me. And also I'm like, why aren't you just definitive? Just take the sick day. Show me some strength. It's actually the opposite of what she was thinking, which is that if she takes the sick day, she's going to appear weak. But in fact, she's creating this appearance of weakness by not being able to make a decision for herself, empower herself, show me that she knows what she needs to take care of herself. Now I have to anticipate her need and convince her to meet them. Exhausting. So I want you to think about that in terms of how you present. This act that we do when we are ill, where we feel guilty, and then we involve other people in our guilt, and we are justifying why we need the thing that we need instead of just being definitive about it, is actually the weakness. So when we think about soft life, treating yourself well, having boundaries, those things are actually difficult. Those things are actually requiring of effort. Those are the things that I'm going to call in this episode hard work, because it is hard to then stand up for yourself, advocate for yourself. Oh, I sound stuffy today. Seasonal allergies are in full effect, y'all. Please pardon my voice. It's spring. Pollen is out and about, and my nose is appropriately responding to the weather. So in this season, we're talking about blooming. We're talking about growth. And that's actually the path of those who are strong. It takes strength for you to have a backbone. It takes strength to enforce boundaries. It is not a vulnerability. It is not a weakness. It is a strength. It is strategic. Ease is often ill-defined. Some of the things I want you to make sure that you do not believe, that you have not bought into, is that ease is for people who are not ambitious, right? Like this concept of if I'm not overworking, I'm slacking. If I'm taking days off, I'm slacking. I can rest after I have achieved all of the things. That's actually the easier way. To just go along to get along, to not stand up for yourself, to not represent your needs, to just keep pushing yourself. Even though it feels hard, it's actually that you making an easier choice. Because the harder thing to do would be to say, this is what I need, and I'm going to give it to myself. Don't beat yourself up about it. These beliefs are ingrained in medical training and culture and just in society as a whole. I know plenty of non-medical people who have this exact same story, this exact same struggle of I have a hard time advocating, taking rest, not always working. Many doctors believe that worthiness is tied to productivity, except that all of this overproductivity is leading to burnout, and then people want to burn everything down and quit. So we've talked about soft life ad nauseum. We've talked about creating balance, about putting your mask on first, all of these things. We need to actually put these into action. The soft life sometimes feels out of reach, not because it actually is, but because we've been trained to feel guilty for wanting it. We've been trained to feel guilty for taking rest or meeting our own needs. Everybody wants a soft life until it's actually time to make soft life decisions. Whoop, bloop, 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 bloop. That's the truth. And here's what I mean by that. A soft life isn't easy to create. It actually takes more discipline than hustle. Let me run that back for you again. A soft life takes more discipline than hustle. Okay? It's not passive. Everybody loves to talk about passive income, and then they are so sad to discover that passive income is not actually passive. This is the same concept. Soft life requires planning, requires boundaries. It means saying no. So we talk about ease and we talk about soft life, but ease is not the same thing as easy because we all know how difficult it can be to say no. Here's a concept I don't talk about often. Saying no, even when there's money attached, because we like to get paid around here. We are always asking for more money, asking for everything. But sometimes the offer that comes attached to money is not a good one. Every offer is not an opportunity. And so sometimes we have to say no, even when there's money attached. All of these job offers that might suck the life out of you, we got to say no to. Even when people might be disappointed, even when it looks good on paper. Let's talk a minute about disappointment. We are so scared to disappoint people, even strangers. I just think about how many conversations I have had with other doctors where the main reason they don't want to say no to something is because they're worried about how it's going to be received. We're trying to control the outcome, even for people we may never see again. So you might be turning down a job, but you're worried that maybe, I don't know how far into the future, you might meet these people again and it will create a problem for you. And I get it. Medicine's small, but you can leave and still make choices for yourself that don't burn bridges. I don't think that saying no is an automatic bridge burn. And that's how a lot of people treat it. So I was on Facebook the other day talking to a doctor about she accepted a job. It wasn't going to work out for her after all. Like it had required her to move. And then some conditions change in her personal life. I don't even know what, because this is like on a Facebook group post. Don't know what the job change was, what the life circumstance change was, but she could no longer move to take this job and she had to let them know. And we were talking about how to respectfully decline because obviously people have taken time and effort and recruiting is a process and they've gone through multiple rounds of interviews and they wrote this letter and she accepted. They'd gotten all the way through to the end, except now the destination changed for her. So we were talking about how to construct that. And she wanted to ask, I'm assuming it's a she. Actually, this was a totally anonymous conversation. I have a lot of those. People post anonymously a lot in Facebook groups when they're asking for advice. So I'm assuming it was a she. I'm going to attribute a female voice to this because I tend to think that a lot of women tend to hedge and communicate this way where this is a very big stereotype, but sometimes men don't do that. Okay. So she was trying to say like, oh, should she let them know that she would look forward to working with them in the future? And I said, well, only if that's true, right? You don't want to reply and say like, I would love to work with you in the future, just in the hopes of keeping a door open that you may never go back through. that just is like a false premise. And there's just no point to that narrative of conversation because you just want to manage. They're still going to be disappointed. That promise of like, you may be working with them in the future is about you. It's not about them. And they're still going to feel all the feels because they thought they had a candidate that they no longer have. They thought they filled a position and they no longer did. So saying no and being honest, right? We talk about kindness instead of niceness, and being clear is actually what's kind. Trying to be nice and make these false promises is not actually kind, and it's not clear. That's why these things are hard. So when we talk about creating a soft life, creating a life that is valuable to you, it involves these hard decisions. It involves prioritizing ourselves. In the same vein of prioritizing ourselves, we've been trained that things like rest are a reward. So when we start to ask for rest, for days off, for sick days, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we have a hard time because it sounds like we're asking for a luxury and not a necessity. Indoctrination, right? The peace, the ease, the softness is what you get after you have done these things, after you have planned and been boundaried and said no. That is how you create ease. So when we finally decide to slow down or ask for less, we have this internal battle. The guilt shows up first. The doubt creeps in. And that's the work. The work is learning how to sit in the discomfort and choose your life of ease anyway. When I think about what it took to get this version of a soft life, and let me tell you, I'm still working because my point B done changed, honey. My vision of a soft life is still coming to fruition. But even this version of softening my life, right? I'm going to call it the softening because we haven't completely softened yet. It meant going from full-time clinical work to now this version of doing 2 days a week of clinical work. This is not luck. It was saying no to a lot of jobs that did not value me, including having periods where I was out of work for up to 6 months. And I didn't have it like that. I had enough to not be homeless, to still eat. And my family was a part of that, right? My partner was a part of that. So knowing how long I could go without committing to a job is an assessment. But I was deeply uncomfortable. Who wants to be at home making no money? Nobody, right? Like to have no money is crazy. But the goal is to have an abundance. So this felt like it was even further from the vision. But I knew I didn't want to sign a contract. So even in signing the contracts with locums company, even short-term contracts, I was not willing to compromise and go into these offices that were seeing 30 to 40 patients a day. That's not my style. It's not my stilo. I'm not doing it. I don't want to take all these 24-hour calls. It was a choice, right? Not luck. It was walking away from the systemic, like discrimination, the structure, the patriarchy, the capitalism that had already drained me. It was creating the schedule that gave me breathing room, even when I felt guilty, even when I felt scared, even when I felt inadequate. So I've had multiple clients since then who have negotiated their ways out of crazy calls, 24-hour shifts. I had one where I said, like, what if you worked less? And she was like, well, I don't want to be perceived as lazy because that's our brain. If we don't have something that we can definitively say that we are doing, producing, accomplishing, it feels like laziness. It doesn't feel like rest. It doesn't feel like self-care. We can tout all the tenets of self-care that we want, but if we're not retraining our brain to realize that we have these underlying beliefs that working less equals laziness, we're never going to negotiate our way out of these bad environments. So it does require shifting your belief. I had to remind my client, this is the point. The point is to have more time freedom, to be freer, to manage our time. And I guarantee, knowing us, we're going to fill it with other things, but we want to fill it with things that are replenishing. Time with our family. This person has kids, a lot of kids, under 5, that she wants to spend time with. right? So we have to make the hard choice up front, and we have to reprogram our brain to say, like, we cannot glorify burnout. We cannot chase struggle as proof of self-worth. The truth is, a soft life is a hard win because it takes self-trust. It takes unlearning. It takes being okay with disappointing others to finally stop disappointing yourself. That'll preach, child. That will preach, okay? You have to be okay with disappointing other people in order to not disappoint yourself. You have to be okay with people being upset in order to stop harming yourself. So if you have been romanticizing rest, but still people pleasing your way through your calendar, ask yourself what it would take to make life easier. And more importantly, am I willing to be that? Am I willing to be that person? So let's talk about where to begin, because you don't just wake up one day with a soft life. You build it choice by choice, day by day. It's why the program is called the Any Day Negotiator, because any day of the week you can be asked to uphold your soft life, because you don't wake up early and just stretch yourself and say the soft life is here. It doesn't work like that, right? It starts for most of us with an audit of some kind. Take a look at your current week, your schedule, your energy. Where are you forcing things? Where are you pretending you're fine when you're actually frustrated or exhausted? I know immediately for some of you, there are some examples that come to mind. Versus where are you flowing? Where do you feel connected, grounded, at peace? So now you have these two buckets, these 2 points of comparison, right? So you're asking yourself, how can I go from the state of force, of exhaustion, frustration, to the state of flowing? What do I need to let go of? What am I saying yes to out of obligation or guilt? Sometimes it's like really little things, like blocking off your lunch. Everybody in my office knows, do not talk to Dr. Horn during lunch break about work-related things. You're lucky if I let you interrupt me for your personal stuff, your little stories or whatever. And now it's wintertime and we're inside and our office does not have a dedicated lunch space. So we are all like sitting in the same general area. So you're lucky if I let you interrupt my little Instagram scroll or calling back my people or doing whatever I feel like doing during lunch to listen to whatever you got going on, because lunch for me is a personal moment, and definitely don't come to me with work things. So that's something small that I do every single day. And I say small, but it's actually big, right? Every day I make sure I take my lunch every single day. I go outside, I go for a walk, I go pick up food. If it's warm, I'll stay outside a little bit longer. I'll find a bench. That is a decision. It's also not volunteering for yet another committee. They don't need you, sis. You don't need to be on that committee. That committee is rescheduling or canceling. Oh, canceling a meeting that you didn't even want to take place in the first place. Cancel that meeting, sis. Please. Sometimes it's even bigger, right? It's realizing the job doesn't fit anymore. It's reworking your hours, your schedule. It's saying, no, I can't take on that extra patient, even when you feel like you should. Oh, that one sometimes is real hard. And I will prioritize, obviously, patient safety is the utmost, right? So if you call and your kid is in respiratory distress, we're going to squeeze them in. But if you call about your kid needing a lifeguard physical form that you knew about and is due, like, you need to schedule for tomorrow. I'm sorry. Okay? Because I also have things going on in my life, right? Soft life starts there. In the small discomforts, in the big discomforts of choosing ease. Even if no one else around you is doing it, you need to be doing it. It's about building a life you don't need to recover from. It's like these vacations, you take these vacations as a recovery period. They're like escape mechanisms. You don't want to have to escape from your life. You don't want to come back from vacation feeling like, oh God, it's back to the grind again. Like that feels awful and that's exhausting. And no, it doesn't change overnight. But it's all of these decisions, these daily decisions. Every time you say yes to yourself, it gets easier to hear your own voice. It's easier to say no to other people. And once you hear your own voice clearly, like you stop, you listen to yourself, you don't want to go back. You won't want to go back to over functioning, to being this high functioning, overproducing individual and mistakenly calling it success. So this is exactly what we do in the Any Day Negotiator group program. I am thinking about changing the name to like Negotiating Life because all of these lessons apply to your entire life. But we talk about money, we talk about contracts, we talk about boundaries, all of the career stuff. But we also talk about the life you're building around that career. Because negotiating isn't just about salary, it's about your time, your peace, your joy. It's about asking for more than survival. It's not selfish. It's recognizing it's necessary. So if you're an early career Black physician who's tired of doing everything right, being there for everyone, being the strong Black woman, not being the angry Black woman, being every trope that everyone needs you to be, and you still feel like I'm not getting what I need to get. I've worked harder and they haven't given me the raise. They're not giving me the recognition. And like maybe things are okay, but like I want better. This is the program for you. The next cohort actually starts in May because, I love a vacation, honey, and I'm going to be out pretty much the rest of April. Like this is my last week coming up in office and then I'm going to be out because it's my birthday. I'm going to have a good time. But the next cohort for this program really starts in May and we're going to be having real conversations in there about how to stop settling, about how to name what you want and pretending that you don't want what you actually do want, right? We're going to actually build this amazing life, this amazing career that helps fund this amazing life. If that's you, head to the link in the show notes and book a call with me because we can talk about what's working, what's not working, and whether this program is your best next step. You can negotiate for money, for time, for peace any day. Why not today? Remember, you don't have to prove your worth through exhaustion. You don't have to be the most helpful, the most available, the most tired person in the room. There is no reward for that, sis. Soft life isn't just about luxuriating. It's about being boundaried. And your next season can be full of rest, ease, and joy if and only if you are willing to choose it. So for this week, I just want you to ask yourself, what does ease look like for me right now? What am I willing to change? What am I ready to change so that I can start to feel it? Your soft life is waiting. Come and join us in the group. Have a good week. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And what I want you to do next is link us everywhere you can. Instagram at The Black Doctor. Just become part of our collective. I want you here. Thanks. Until next time. Bye.